Hello, everyone, and welcome to Microsoft Teams Essential Training. My name is Bethany. I'm a training officer here for HCD. This has been recorded as of February 2022, so just know depending on when you're watching, there could be some slight variations, but we'll do our best to keep it as up to date as possible. Before we begin, we're going to go over some general housekeeping, and that is to the right side of my screen here. Usually in the instructor-led class, as in face-to-face, it's about a 2-hour session. Of course, here you have the luxury of pausing and playing back at your convenience. So do expect to take approximately maybe 2 hours or less. So do prepare to take some breaks here and there as needed. Now, to ensure you have the right setup for success, here are some tips. The first one is having a 2-screen setup so that on one screen, you'll be able to watch the demonstrations, and on the other, you'll be able to simultaneously follow along. Now, if that's not possible, as in you just have one screen, that's completely okay. I recommend just splitting the screen, or you could just watch and observe and practice after the fact. There will be some exercise files that will be used for purposes of this class, and you will be able to access them. We just encourage to ensure you're keeping along. Make sure you download them to your desktop in advance. Last but not least, just to make sure you have the maximum real estate on your screen, this is Microsoft Teams, so you can use what's called the gallery view, and that way you can see as much as you can on the screen. What I mean by that, to enable that, is in Teams, you're just going to hit the ... which is your more options. And if you scroll on down about the 6th or 7th option down, it's labeled as gallery. When you toggle that on, you'll have the full screen mode enabled. Last but not least, just for some surprises for you and making sure you're set up for success, if possible, do have your HCD iPhone ready to use, as this course is designed to also take a look at the mobile view of Microsoft Teams. Otherwise, when you have all those 5 criteria, I want you to go ahead and pause the video if you don't have it, but go ahead and make sure you have that set up, and then we'll move forward to the next part. So now that you have all of those criteria and you're set up for success, let's go ahead and begin. I formally welcome you to Microsoft Teams Essentials Training. Just to give you a heads up, we're going to start out with an overview of what Microsoft Teams is used for here at HCD. There's many methods of communications, but definitely within HCD, we use Microsoft Teams quite heavily. It is one of our primary methods of communications, whether it's chatting, whether it's sharing files, etc. Just know it is a very powerful tool. It's designed to boost productivity and really help coworkers easily collaborate, especially in a hybrid environment. This course, like I said before, is designed to really provide you with a basic knowledge, but also some tips and tricks, but not just in the desktop view, more importantly in the Microsoft Teams mobile app. And so that's why, if possible, I recommend having your HCD iPhone available, and that way we can take a look and see and have some fun in that app view as well. So otherwise, let's take a look at what we have in store for you. The course objectives includes getting to know the basic setup of Microsoft Teams. What I mean by that is getting to know the interface, where you're clicking, where you're navigating, etc. We'll then take a look at how to create rich conversations. I have no doubt you all know how to chat, but how can we make them more fun and engaging? We'll then go into how to schedule meetings directly from Teams, or perhaps you need to have impromptu meetings. That's very possible. And then we'll even move forward into how to share files, download files, and real-time collaborate with our teams, specifically as we get through the file sharing objective. And then Microsoft Teams is fully customizable, just like many other Microsoft Office applications. And so we'll take a look at how you can set up your preferred view, any tabs, any additional settings that you may directly want. And then, again, just based off of the fun of it, we will try to take a look at some fun within the mobile app view to really get the maximum return on investment through Microsoft Teams. So when you're ready to do so, go and pause the video, and then we'll go ahead and begin. So just to give you some backstory of Microsoft Teams before we get our hands wet, Microsoft Teams was once what's called Skype. Some of you may be quite familiar with that, but Skype was just about being able to make a phone call and chatting. That's really there was to it. That now has evolved into Microsoft Teams. So Teams is officially Skype plus a host of collaboration features, as in true teamwork. So if I were to sum up what is Microsoft Teams, it is a chat-based collaboration tool that allows for video, audio, and full-on Office 365 integration that makes it really simple to share files, folders, and content no matter where you are in the world, as long as you have internet connectivity. So I could do things from my phone, I could be on my iPad, I could be on my laptop or desktop and still getting work done. What a lovely feature. Now, keep in mind, as part of HCD, we are part of the government umbrella, a very particular sector, and that's fine. We have the capability to have group communication and collaboration, and so there are a ton of major features of Microsoft Teams. We're going to take a look at this left to right. In essence, the first part, which most of us know about, it's all about chatting, right? We have to be able to communicate. That is the fundamentals here. And sure enough, beyond just chatting, we can reply, we can like comments, we could use at comments, we could also share files. I mean, that's just the fun part. And especially if you're using GIFs, memes, and well, we're going to play with that, but just wanted to give you a heads up. The secondary part of what makes Microsoft Teams really powerful, it's a hub for teamwork. So when I say Microsoft Office 365 integration, what I'm talking about is using Word, Excel, PowerPoint. For my Power BI users, you can absolutely do that. And without ever leaving Microsoft Teams, you can do it all within the app. And so it's full-on integration that allows for seamless teamwork. The next part of Microsoft Teams that makes it incredibly powerful is the fact that all teams are customizable. So not all teams are necessarily created equal, but not all teams are also the same. I'll give you a hint what I mean by that when we play around with the different teams. Otherwise, biggest and most important feature of all, Microsoft Teams is absolutely secure. All of their data centers are housed within Microsoft suites. So just know, again, that's why we have it. And that's the overview of Microsoft Teams. Since you have the 1,000-foot overview, literally, we will now get our feet wet. So when you're ready, let's go ahead and pause this video and make sure you're ready to get your hands dirty because we're going to have some fun with Microsoft Teams. So at this point, I do want you to follow along with me in your view of Microsoft Teams. As you can see here, the first part is we're going to go over the course objectives of the basic setup. And so that's what I'm going to share with you right now. You're going to see my desktop. Here it is. And when you're ready to launch Teams, well, there's a couple ways to do that. Of course, this is tech. And so, oops, sorry, too many screens going on here. But here we go. One of the simple ways, if you're ever unsure what screen or where you're searching for things, I always like this search bar. So at the bottom left, you have a search capability, and I'm just going to type in Teams. So anything related to that word, of course, will come up. Here it is, Microsoft Teams. I can double click on that, and that's going to launch it. Another way, thank you, IT, most of them have set it up as a just quick shortcut through my desktop. So for example, let me zoom in here. At the top left corner, I have the purple application listed as Microsoft Teams. You can double click on there, and that's another way that you can launch Teams. And if you really are maybe lazy like myself, I just like to use my shortcuts. So for example, I have shortcuts at the very bottom of my screen, and I just double click there for frequently used applications, one of them being Teams. So I'm going to go and double click that. And what happens is Teams is going to launch. It just happens to be on my other screen. So let me bring it back here. And here's more than likely where I last left off. So we're going to take a look at this. I'm just going to click away, and maybe a common view, most of us see it. Maybe we use your calendar pretty frequently. So we're going to take a look at this and just get to know the basic setup of Teams. And what I mean by that, we're going to read this left to right, top to bottom, right? Just how we normally read. So in essence, when you take a look at Teams, at this far left column, this is a quick launch view where you have everything practically available. So for example, at the bottom left corner, you should have a help button. If you click on there, what's great about Microsoft applications is that it has built-in help opportunities. Maybe you want more topics to learn on, maybe you want to train on items. So for example, at the bottom left corner, I'm going to click on topics. And a new window will populate. This is all directly from Microsoft. So they're giving us ways that we can learn a little bit more about Microsoft Teams. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but for example, what I like most about this, they break it down to very simple actions. For example, we have make calls. Maybe you want to learn how to plan a meeting or join a meeting, what have you. And then there's a couple more links that you can go in, of course, from there. Now, for training purposes, again, there's a search bar up here. You can always type in whatever it is that you want, but I'm going to click on the training tab at the top left corner. And this is the formal method of Microsoft Teams teaching you in just small tidbits, if you will. So for example, if I were to click on, let's say how to upload files, notice it's just 1 minute and 6 seconds. If I were to click on it, gives me a nice little video. And those of you that maybe are not as visual and want to read it step by step, that's completely fine. And here it is, step by step on how I could, according to this topic, which is upload and share files, step by step listed here. And if there's more items related to that, they're going to be listed at the bottom. So I highly encourage using this one. If you ever want to know some of the more recent updates, right? So for example, this is recorded as of February of 2022, there could be some slight variations. So you can always know by using this What's New tab. And from here, it's going to tell us all the more recent items that have happened. So for example, one of the things we'll talk about later is, for example, Whiteboard. Who knew when that happened and we had access to that? Come around October is when it kind of launched, and that would make sense based on the timeline of when I had experienced that. So this is where you can kind of find out the latest and greatest, nothing too crazy since December of 2021. Other than that, if you ever want to get back and you're not too sure what you want to learn and just kind of want to poke around, you just click on this little house guy, and that's still under the help button to the bottom left that we clicked on. So it'll take you to a lot more topics. Otherwise, that's just the help button. So let's get back to the far left here where it has apps. Now, apps, as I mentioned, are fully integrated. This is where all the bells and whistles of Teams really comes to life as far as full collaboration. So join me by clicking the word apps at the bottom left corner. Yours could be slightly higher or lower. I have a slightly different customized view more than likely already. But once I clicked on apps, take a look here. It takes me to the App Store, if you will. And this is all the apps that, for example, we at HCD have access to. So anything that's popular across Teams will populate at the top here. If it's directly just from Microsoft and more apps that I might consider using, it's listed here. And they even have the category of productivity that I might consider. Now, keep in mind, these are some of the top ones. If I want to see more about it, I'll just click on this far right where it says see all. See all. And now I have the capability to look at all the different apps that we have access to. Quite frankly, there's a lot more than this, but this is what we officially have access to. So if you're not sure about an app, for example, I'll just click on, say, what's a fun one here? Power BI at the top right corner. And you can select any other app if you prefer, but I'm just going to click on Power BI. If I'm not familiar with it, here's a quick rundown directly from YouTube, from Microsoft, and they're going to tell me all about it, or I can read about it towards the bottom in the description. Let's say this is something you do use quite frequently. I can easily add that by clicking the Add Purple button. And what happens is Microsoft Power BI, the online application is currently launching in my Microsoft Teams view. And as you can see on my far left corner here, where I clicked on apps, Power BI is now listed as an app. So it's a quick launch. I just click and go, and I'm in the online version. So anything I'm doing here, if I'm doing it on my desktop, is also compatible. That's not the purpose of this particular class, but no, you can do that. So for example, since I clicked on an app, and I would hope you had followed along with me, at the far left corner, if you were to click on it, if I right click over it, maybe this is something I use a lot. I'm going to just walk through these little prompts, but when I right clicked over the Power BI, okay, you have this new pop-up window. There's the first one says pop out app. So if you click on there, you now have that same online application window, but just in a whole new window within Teams. So if you prefer having a separate view, that's one way you could do so too. I don't really need this right now, so I'm just going to close it out. But going back to my Power BI app on the far left, I'm going to click over it. I'm using my right clicker, and maybe I want to learn more about it. So I'll click on this About, and here is that same window that we saw before actually adding it to our Microsoft Teams. Now, let's say I come to find out this is not something I'm familiar with. I don't need it. So I'm just going to close this out. And if I go back to my Power BI app and I right click over it, if I really don't need it, I will uninstall. Let's say I'm the reverse of that and I truly need it. You can do what's called pin it, meaning it's always going to stay there. And if you think of an old school thumbtack where you're keeping it on the wall, that's in essence what the pin means. So otherwise, I have now pinned it. That means it's going to remain here on my top left, on my far left window here, to make sure I have a customized view for apps that I frequently use. In this case, I don't need it, as I mentioned, so I'm going to just unpin it and let it go, or really fully uninstall it by right clicking over it and clicking the uninstall. Of course, before I do that, Microsoft is always going to double check. Are you sure, Bethany, this is truly something you want to do? I'm just going to go ahead and click that purple uninstall button and say, yes, I won't need it this time. Okay, so notice my far left Power BI is no longer listed there, and that's one of the ways you can customize it, which is part of what we talk about within this class. So otherwise, know that there's a lot more functionality beyond just chatting. It really comes down to what do you use to collaborate with the rest of your team. So otherwise, what we just did is took a look at the apps view right here at the far left, and that way you can see that. Now, another way, okay, there's always multiple ways to do so and do different things, even though it's the same objective. If you click this dot, 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 what that is an ellipsis. It just means more options. So if I were to click there, that's practically a mini version of the full-on App Store. For example, these might be apps that I frequently use and Microsoft is picking it up. I can search for an app using that search bar. So I'm going to type in Power. Notice it's automatically finding any apps related to that. And there's my Power BI. If I were to click on there, it launches that same window just as if I was in that all apps view. So I'm going to close this out and go back to this dot, dot, dot to demonstrate that one more time. Maybe that Power BI app wasn't listed there as it was here. So I'm going to click on this one where it says more apps. And when I click on more apps, here's that same view that we saw before. The only difference is we clicked on the apps button at the bottom left. And here we are, all the apps that we saw before. And in this left-hand side, you have, again, a filtered view, maybe of features, categories, etc., that you might want to take a look at. So that's how you can launch, again, more apps within Teams. The next part, we're going to go into this call button. So if I were to click on it, notice it's a dark purple instead of the gray, and that's how I know I'm in that particular tab or that view. So of course, Microsoft Teams is built all about communication. Now, we can obviously make phone calls, that's the fundamentals, but who does that, right? Most of us chat. So just in case, when you make phone calls, they're all internal. So if I were to type a name, maybe I'm calling my peer Jasmine, another training officer here at HCD, I can directly call her through that and just by using the call button. Now, because of our limitation here at HTD, generally, if you need to make an outbound call as an external call, you're dialing on the dial pad, that would normally be here in this very blank space. As you can see, it's not listed there. So your workaround for external calls is to actually schedule a meeting with them through your calendar, and you'll be able to make the phone call that way. I know it's a little different, but our team is fully aware of it. But just know at this time, this is how you can, again, make a call internally. Notice it defaults to my phone, okay, tab at the top left. If I have very particular contacts, I can click on there. Again, kind of think of it as your old school phone. Most of us don't really use it for that, but just know you have that capability. So otherwise, that's the phone part of it. If you needed to filter, maybe this is my all call log, and how I know that is I'm on the all view here in my history. If you want to check out any calls you may have missed, you can go into your history and just click on the miss option, or incoming, and perhaps you get a lot of voicemails. You can check on that. So there, just know that they're all listed here for you. Otherwise, this part is pretty straightforward. Again, this has to do with calls. So we're going to move on to the next part of files. And again, your order might be slightly different than mine. I have a customized view, and I'm going to share with you how to do this. But I'm going to click on the Files tab since that's what I have left. And here we go, files. This is all backed up to my OneDrive. My OneDrive is any personal files that I've worked on. It's nothing that I've directly just maybe shared just yet. So just know anything I've recently worked on comes up here because I'm on the recent view. If I want to take a look at anything I've downloaded through Teams directly, it's here. And then of course, I might have a lot of my files directly saved on OneDrive, so I can directly access them here based on the different files that I have. Whether I need to create a new document, so I'm hitting this plus new button, and whether it's a new folder or document, etc. Very similar to the hub, you have this full-on access here. Maybe I have an existing document that I need to upload into Teams for some odd reason. Again, that's this upload button here. I can not just a document, but I could do a file or a folder. And then again, a lot of this is fully web-based, so I can always copy a link. So if I were to hover over, say, this desktop folder, if I right click, because that's that dot, 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 there's a lot more options. I have full capability there. So at this time, I'm not going to use any of this. That's not the purpose of this training. It's just to navigate what you're looking at here in the Teams view. So this is, again, that Files tab. If I were to go on the far left again, I'm going to click now on Calendar. This is probably one of the top reasons you use Teams, is to talk with folks and have scheduled meetings, right? Because we're all about our scheduled meetings at this time. So otherwise, this is my calendar view. If you're to look here, this is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to read this left to right. So I'm on today, which is highlighted for the 16th of February. If I needed to go back, for example, the previous week, I would just hit this back arrow key. If I need to go forward, I can also move forward. And that's kind of tedious, but maybe you need to check by the month. So if you pull down from the February 22 or time frame that you have, there's a pull down, and here's your full month view. You can go left and right, back and forth for the different time frame that you're looking for. Now, this right now, mine shows from Monday through Friday. That's clearly a work week, and that's how I have set it to. So just know you can customize that. How? At the top right corner where it says work week, I'll just pull down on this menu. And as I'm pulling down the menu, I have other views that I can access. So let's say I want just the day view. That happens to be the first view. So here's my day view. And I'm going to go back here to the right side. I'm going to change that one more time by the work week, so Monday through Friday. And then I'm also going to go by just maybe the week. So here you are, Sunday through Saturday, a full week. And right now, this is, again, in a calendar mode, so you have that capability to display however you prefer. I'm going to change it back to work week just for purposes of this class. Otherwise, no, you can change it to your preferred view. Next, we're going to take a look at the Teams section. Teams, right? We're in Microsoft Teams. Teams is all about just getting together. Maybe we have common interests, very specific teams. So within every team, there's also what we call channels. I like to think of channels as maybe we're all under HCD umbrella, but we might be based in different offices. For example, I'm based out of headquarters. Some of you folks might be at Tech Center or down in our Southern California area. And so when I think of channels, I like to think of those as maybe the different buildings that are associated with HCD, because within each building, there are different teams and different common groups. And that's how a team is built for Microsoft Teams. So just know there are what's called your general teams, and there could be teams within teams, meaning they're more customized. It's a more focused group, if you will. So when I take a look at this team section, since I clicked on this far left, what enables the next window here is all the teams I'm personally associated with. A lot of us will have the get to know teams. That's a very general channel, but depending on your associations, you might have others. You can have the capability to even hide some of your teams. So just in case you want more functionality, when you hover over one of your teams, there's a dot, 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 as in more options. So I'm going to use this get to know teams first, and I'll click on that dot, dot, dot. If I need to hide it, maybe I don't use this team that often, I can just click on hide. If I am an owner of a channel or I need to add somebody, maybe I'm a manager or supervisor and I have a new hire, you can use this manage team function. So I'll click there. And now I can access who is on the team. Again, I am not an owner of this, but here's the original owners. You can take a look at any other channels that may be available. Analytics would be basically the summary of the channel, anything that's being used, and apps associated with it. So again, this is on the manage view. So I've clicked on that dot, dot, dot. That's the manage team. Sometimes you might need to invite a group to entire channel. So to do so, you can get the link to that team, and that's what this does. Here is a full-blown link for this particular team if I need to share it with anybody. So I'm just going to cancel out of here. I don't have any purpose to do that. And last but not least, there's what we call tags. Tags is just to quickly find a team. It's kind of like a hashtag system, a fast call out to represent a particular group and a following. We won't go into that again for purposes of this, but know that that option is there. So otherwise, while we're on the teams section, okay, you can create your own team, as I'd mentioned. I mentioned before, not all teams are created equal. That's because you can create that team, and how to do so is at this bottom left where it says join or create team. If I were to click on there, it's going to take me through a couple prompts. We're not going to do that right now because we're still under the basic navigation, but just know that is where you would want to either join or create a team, either from scratch or through an existing team. So now that we talked about teams, the next part is taking a look at the chat. This is pretty self-explanatory for most folks, but once you click on chat, my threads are listed here on the next column over. So anytime I click on the particular app, I get the next view of it and then a very detailed view of it. For example, if I were to click on this chat, it's going to take me to the full chat that I can scroll up and down to find out more information on. So chat is pretty self-explanatory. That's again how most of us communicate here at HCD, but just know that that's how I will enable my chat. We're going to have some fun with that in the next module of creating rich conversations. Right now, we're just navigating away. Now, if we go up from the chat, the next part is what's called activities. So activities is very similar to like a social media. You have the ability to like or anything you're associated with, it's going to give you an update. So if somebody reacted to a post that you had, maybe you mentioned something and they reacted, that's where you can get more information on the feed. And if I ever need to filter these are pretty common. You have a my activity as in what I did, or you have a feed as in somebody else is responding back to you. So my activity is what I did, and a feed again is what others have reacted to comments that I have done. So otherwise, now that we went through the far left pane, some of you may see this. It depends on what view you're in. I'm in a desktop mode. Remember, I clicked here at the bottom left to launch this. If you're in the browser mode, more than likely you may not see this. When I say browser, you're in Microsoft Edge, just viewing it that way. So I'm in desktop because, again, I clicked it through my desktop, and that's how I launched this view right here. So what I'm saying is part of you, if you may not see this or not, what I'm referring to is this top left corner. We have a left arrow or a right arrow. The left arrow is in essence a back key. What is the previous view that I just did? In today's world, it's a very likely, I should say, that you're multitasking. Sometimes you might get caught up a little bit and you might lose the window. Maybe you're on a chat and then somebody else chatted you, so you're trying to chat back and you forgot what you were talking about or doing. So if you ever need to go back to a very particular view, you can click on this back arrow. It'll take you back to your previous view. The reverse of that would be your right key, the right arrow, and that's to go forward, as in what did you just do, and you're going to move forward in other views. So if I were to keep clicking away, it's the last view that I just had. Again, you can toggle back left and right. Otherwise, let's do this. We're going to have a little bit more fun here. And we're going to use this search bar. Now that we've talked about the far left, we're going to slowly make our way to the right. So using this search bar, sure, it's kind of, think of it as your internal Google. I can search for anything. So I'll just say like iPhone, anything related to that word will come up in relation to Teams. So that could be a chat. It could be a document or a file or a photo. So anything related to this verbiage that will be here. Now, beyond just being a search bar, if you can see up here, when I click on that, it actually does a lot more than that. It says look for messages, files, and more, or type / in a list of commands. So for example, this is what we call a quick launch, if you will. So we're going to file this forward. So we just search, for example, iPhone, any messages or files related to that word. But let's say I want to quickly change my status. As you can see, I changed it offline for purposes of this meeting, just to test it out. But if you use your Control E key, so I'm going to click somewhere in this gray area. And for those of you that want to speed up and be a little bit more efficient in your ways, I highly encourage some of your command keys. So if I were to hit Control E on my keyboard, I'm not even touching my mouse. So I'm just going to try that one more time. Here's my mouse. I'm going to click away purposely, not in that search bar. Go ahead and type in Control and hold down E. Control E. Okay, that's a fast tip and trick to get quickly to your search bar. And now I can type in iPhone or whatever it is I'm looking for. Now, to get even faster, you can do a list of commands. So for example, when it says use the / in a command, I will use /. And here I have a lot of different commands. They're all in alphabetical order. Not going to go through every single one because that's the fun part. You get to do that. But we're going to do some of probably the top ones that you'll probably use. So if I use the / and I typed in saved, that will take me to any documents that I've recently done or related to that, or maybe even messages that I saved in the chat. So these are all saved messages. So real quick, let's say I don't need that. I'm going to go to Control E again to quickly launch my quick launch. Control E. This time I'm going to do, look at my status. I'm on offline. I want to change that, but not even click my status. So I'm going to go to my forward key. Okay, so / is what you want to do. And let's just say I want to go to Do Not Disturb. And as you can see, it's located here, DND. But I'm just going to type it in, DND, and enter. And as I do that, my status is being changed to Do Not Disturb. Dun, dun, dun. Look at that. I didn't even move my mouse. And my status on the right-hand side has changed to Do Not Disturb. Let's try this in the reverse of that. So you're going to go back to your Control E, or if you're a clicker like myself, I'm going to click out of this purposely and click Control E. And I'm going to go to / away. Let's turn it back off. And now it's being updated, and notice my status. I have my hands up here purposely so you can see it. I did not use my mouse in my top right-hand corner, and now I'll use my mouse. But to my right, my status has changed to being away. That is clearly not the case, but let's just say I want to do a fun one. Let's say I need to message my peer, Jasmine, because she's somebody I frequently need to talk with. So I'm going to use forward slash, and I'm going to just search her name, just a couple letters. Usually it's going to find them. Maybe it's not there. So let me try this. If I go at, let's try to call her out. I'm going to find her just a couple letters. Her name's Jasmine. So I'm going to put JS. There she is, the first one there. And I'm going to say, this is a test. She's probably thinking, what am I sending her? So even though I'm not clicking in the chat itself, I'm going to message her directly from here. So I typed in, this is a test. And if I hit enter, I am now sending that message directly to her without ever changing to my chat. And if I hit enter once again for this, it's going to take me back directly to, oops, sorry, I clicked one too many clicks there, but Jasmine, this is a test. And then if I clicked enter again, it's sending, and I click enter again, it will take me directly to my thread with her. So it's pretty cool because these are quick, fast commands that I can quickly do without ever clicking to get to that particular objective that I need, in this case, to send Jasmine a message. So at this point, just know it's very possible to use that. There's a lot more functionality. So if you look at this top search bar and click that forward slash, here's a lot more items you can absolutely use. I highly encourage you to start using it. It will expedite your efficiency within Teams. So otherwise, that is the search bar for you. And again, fully capable of a lot more items, not just search. As we start getting to know this a little bit more, let's go to the far right now, or work our way to the right. And for example, you have your initials. Mine is BR as of right now. And if I were to click there in the circle, you could have a photo. Mine clearly doesn't. If you do want a photo instead of your initials, you'll just have to submit a SolarWinds ticket. But this is basically your profile for Microsoft Teams. You'll see here later when we get to the second module of how to create rich conversations. Any messages you saved would be listed here. But we're going to check on this manage accounts. So if I were to click there, this takes me to my settings. So as I mentioned before, there's a couple different ways to launch this view. Go ahead and join me by closing this out, and we're going to take a look at the other way to do so. So going back to the top right hand corner near your initials, you're going to have that dot, 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 which is your more options. So if you click there, there's a little bit more for you. So that settings gear, if I click there, that is that same window that we just had before. So again, just multiple ways. There's no right or wrong way to do so. It's truly your preference. Since we're in the settings option, I'm going to share this with you, so follow along with me. There's a couple different sub settings, if you will. So we're on the general part. Some folks have it on a dark mode, some have it in a light mode. So if you're ever curious as to how to change that, right now I'm in the default, so I'm going to click on dark. And what's going to happen is automatically it's going to change for me to give me a preview. Doesn't mean it's fully set. That's just a preview. If you want to see the high contrast, what that means is as of right now, it's a high contrast mode. So very dark and very light against each other. It really depends on your preference. For purposes of this, I'm going to click it on the default, which is to keep it on that lighter side. Okay, so default is what I chose. Now in the general settings, if I scroll down, there's really not much more that you'll need to do. For those of you that maybe use other languages, you can change the languages. I won't change mine personally because I don't know too many, but no, there's a lot more other languages that we can actually translate with through Microsoft Teams, and this is where you would change those default languages. Other than that, if you were to scroll down to, most of us, if we're ever out of office, we'll schedule that through Outlook. You can actually do that right in here. Notice at the bottom it says out of office, and you'd simply schedule that. If I were to click there, it's going to launch, what my out of office looks like. This is the same settings that I have in Outlook. So again, totally your choice, but I'm just going to hit back since I don't need to do that, but know that that functionality is right here. The next part of the settings, we're going to go down to the second part here under accounts. You really don't have to change anything here. Again, thank you IT for setting this all up, but basically it should be just your HCD account for work purposes. No action required there, but no, that's how you know how to sign in and out officially out of your profile. We'll then now go to the privacy settings, and the privacy settings, this is how you can be on maybe do not disturb. And for example, let's say you're in a very high level meeting, you cannot be bothered, but you want to mute your chats, but you need to make sure you get something in terms of your manager. So if I were to click on manage priority access, I can add in my manager. I may be on do not disturb because maybe I'm presenting or just don't want to be disturbed, but that doesn't mean I won't get notifications from these very important specific people. So if I add in my manager here, I will not miss a beat with them. That's how you can manage your overall access. I'm going to go back. Okay. And that part, what we just talked about is the manage party access. Sometimes in other, I would say, organizations, you have the ability to get out incoming calls from external persons. If you ever need to block such persons, especially if they don't have a caller ID, this is where you would do that. And then, of course, if you have other settings related to your keyboard, that's all here. I'm going to leave it all by default, so nothing really to change, but note this is where you would use your privacy settings. The next part would be your notifications. This is really all up to you. For example, let's say you're out of office and clearly your Teams is off. Do you want to be notified? And if so, you'll get an email, but how soon do you want that? So you can select with this pull down as soon as possible. Do you want every 10 minutes? Every hour, 8 hours daily, or even fully off. Truly up to you. So in my default view, I have as soon as possible. I just like to keep up to date with everything, but your choice. You might get a lot more options than me, so you can choose that. The next part might be quite important to you, but this is where a lot of folks, if they reached out in regards to their sound quality, their video quality, this is where you can check out your appearance and sounds, specifically related to notifications. So for example, this is the built-in sound. There are other options such as Windows. I don't change any of that, but know you have that capability to do so. Same thing for any activities related to your app mentions or any activity in general. So if you need to change other items such as your chat and meeting call settings, this is all listed here. I leave it with the default. It's my recommended view because it's a default for a reason. So I don't recommend changing anything, but no, that's here listed in the notifications tab within settings. The next part we're going to get through is the devices. And under the settings of devices, this is especially important if you have multiple cameras. Maybe you use a headset like myself, or you're using your laptop speakers for your audio quality. This is where you can determine a lot of that. So for example, the audio devices, Teams will generally pick up automatically what you have. So for example, I clearly have a headset, so I didn't even have to set that up. But my speakers, do I want it to go through my speakers as in the sound, or do I want to go through my headset? So as of right now, I can select where I want it. So if you're finding a difference, again, I would highly encourage checking your settings and specifically the devices. So I'm going to keep it on my headset because that's where I want all my sound to get through. One way to always test, how do I sound? How do I look? You can make a test call to yourself. I won't do that now because that will unfortunately kick me out of this own meeting, but no, you have that capability to do so here. Another great quality of Teams is it automatically has some default noise suppression. I highly encourage the auto default option here, but no, you have the ability to change that either to high or low or completely off. I truly recommend the default option. It works great. Last but not least, regarding your devices, you can have multiple ringers. Notice I don't have a secondary ringer on, but if I did, I can choose where that would ring and how it would be coming through. And the most important part in Teams is we're here to collaborate virtually most of the time these days. So your camera, do you want it to automatically adjust? That's what's here. I have multiple cameras that I can turn on. So this is my laptop camera, but just know this is, if you never see yourself, that's probably either a function that you have fully turned off maybe on your keyboard, probably one of your F functions that might be turned on. It's a key on your laptop if you have one of the HPs. Also, it may have to do with the background settings. Maybe you have a green screen or whatnot. So this is a good way. Like for example, I can test myself. This is where I was able to test, are you able to see me? That's all here. So again, we are in the settings part, just taking a look at the devices. Otherwise, one of the more important pieces, there's what's called app permissions. This would be important if you're using Teams for other applications that are built into it. Right now, again, there's only so many that we have here at HCD, but you just want to make sure your app permissions, usually want them on, especially for media, your location, etc. This is so that Teams can pull from those other avenues. Otherwise, to make sure we're also inclusive, there's what's called captions and transcripts. This is usually related to being in a meeting where it's transcribing. You can turn that automatically on. It's a toggle switch. So if I click that, it'll be purple. I can turn it off by clicking it off, and it's no longer that dark purple. So I encourage you, always give a heads up. If you are having a recorded session, always announce it, but also too that if the transcription on, the others are aware of that. Mine is toggled off for purposes of just this training. And then the calls, this is the last part of your settings, but otherwise, when somebody calls you, how do you want it to proceed? Does it ring you? Because if I'm out of office, I might want it to go to my manager. I'm just saying, so you can click on forward my calls, and where does that go? I'm going to, of course, keep it on me just in case I don't miss anything. But if I do an answered, you can set up a voicemail. At this point, I just never set that up apparently, so it's on do nothing. But if you need to set up that voicemail, you'll just click on the bottom here where it says configure voicemail, and there you go. Now, some of you might really not like the default ringtone of when you get a call. So if you ever want to change that, if you click on this down arrow, you got all kinds of options here. And if you were to click on it, it's going to give you a preview of that sound. If you like it, just select it. I will keep it with my default, as you can see. And then for accessibility purposes, technically you have that capability, but you always so need a TTY device. That's again for ADA accessibility purposes. I don't have that as right now, but you can turn that on just using that switch. So otherwise, we went through a lot within the settings, and how I got there. There's two different ways. Top right hand corner, under my initials, you can click on manage account. The easier way, most of us use this, is the ... and just the settings. And that's how I launched this particular view that we just went through. No, even though it's very light, some of these different subsettings, there is a scroll bar, and you can always pull down if you're always missing that, or just scroll down using, if you are using a mouse, you're up and down. So other than that, I'm going to close this out. That has to do with the settings. And I'm just going to go back to this ... Let's say this view of Teams is very just small for me. I need to zoom in some. That's right here. I can click on this plus. Notice it's zoomed in. If I were to need to zoom out, I would hit the minus to, again, allow the magnifier to get out of there. And now it's kind of back to that normal view. Keyboard shortcuts, that's what we were looking at earlier, kind of in this command key section when I was in the search bar and typed that /. Here's all the other commands you can do. But otherwise, if you want a list of them, they should be right here in this keyboard shortcuts. And here we go, very similar to that / command that's specific to that search bar, but here are other commands you could do directly off your keyboard to expedite your efficiency within Teams and in Microsoft overall. As long as it's a PC, a lot of these should work. Otherwise, I'm going to close out of that, and going back to this ... One other thing I would recommend is there's what's called check for updates. So check for updates. If I were to click on there, this makes sure, as you can see in this top bar here, it says we will check and install any updates while you continue to work. So I just always want to make sure I'm always up to speed. Luckily, most of it is pushed here to us at HCD, meaning we as employees don't have to do much. But if you ever just are having problems, maybe it's just one of those days, things are not connecting, you can always triple check by using that check for updates. And as of right now, I know I'm all up to speed with that. And then, as you can see, I'm a consistent message here. Check out the download mobile app. We definitely encourage that, but we'll go through that on the HCD iPhone at the end of this. So otherwise, that is the basic navigation for you, specifically within Teams, of just getting to know the interface. What we're going to do next is check out how to enable a rich conversation. So why just chat with somebody when I can make it a lot more interactive and really just have some fun with it without less typing or less doing? Let's let it do the work for us. So let me share with you what I mean by that. So I'm going to go back to Jasmine here. Again, another trainer we have here at HCD. And maybe I need to talk with her. So I'm going to say like, hello. So in the search, I'm in a chat view. So at the top left corner, I'm in chat. Here's my threads. I'm with Jasmine, and that's why it's a lighter whites, if you will, or a lighter gray. And once I click on that, I enable the full chat between us. So one thing you should know is the individual that you're messaging, usually there's a chat tab. That's of course what we're doing now, but maybe there's frequent files that I work with her a lot on. So you're going to have a files tab. I have nothing here, or I'm sorry, I do have something here, not too much, but there's that. And then where is she located within the organization? So I can kind of see that org chart off the bat. Kind of nice instead of going to my Edge and then internet and then inside HDD, searching the org chart. I mean, that's a lot of steps. So just know generally you'll have that capability here. Any activities that have recently happened, and as far as the whiteboard, if I've done any whiteboards with her, as in drew something together, it would be listed here. And then we have that capability, like all other Microsoft scheduled meetings and so forth, there's always a plus sign to enable more. So this is something we had worked on, for example, together. So I'm going to pretend like we're going to chat real quick because I'm going to share with you how to create rich conversations. So as of right now, I can say hello, right? I think we can all do that. So I want you to find somebody that you're going to chat with just for purposes of, and when you type in hello, right, you can click there. Otherwise, another thing you could do, that's pretty basic. That's old school, I like to say. So why don't we make it fancy and create a rich conversation? So even though you can type a message here, there's multiple buttons towards the bottom of that field. We're going to read this left to right. So on this left field, it has formats. So basically, if I were to click on the little A with a pencil, this gives me much more functionality, as in maybe I need to type in hi, but with a bold. So I can highlight it, I can bold it. Maybe I need to say this is cool. So I'm going to italicize it to this, and I'm going to underline it and say is so cool. Right? I can say that for sure. Now, this strike through is also available. So let's say I wanted that. I can use the strike through. So very similar to any Microsoft word processor or word processor out there, you have the capability to change the fonts, the functions, and so forth. If I even need to go so far to change the color or highlight it, if you will, that's what this little pointer down is. I can select the highlighted option. So let's go with like a nice blue. Cool. And it's kind of dark. Let's try this one more time. Let's go with a nice bright orange. Okay. Now I'm not as happy with that. I want to even change the font color. So for example, if I were to click on the next button over the font color, that's again what I can change, and I could put it like in green with a orange highlight. That's kind of a little rough on the contrast side. I'm so sorry. So let me just change that a little back. I'll go with white. But otherwise, let's say I really want this to stand out for her, I can change the font size. And that's what this next button is, the small a with big A. So if you click there, I have it highlighted. And I'm going to go with either large, medium, or small. So I'm going to go with large. And that's as large as it's going to get as of right now. Okay. So there you are, how to, again, make a full, much more enriching and engaging conversation. But again, this is a lot of typing. Perhaps you're going to create paragraphs. So maybe there's more headers to it. So for example, if I hit my enter key, that takes me to the next row. Whereas before, if I just typed in chat as in hello and clicked enter, she automatically will get this. So again, greater control before I truly send that back, because you'll see we can't exactly just delete it yet. So otherwise, again, we are just playing here with the formats, and otherwise the paragraph, this would be so that you have other styles as in headers. So for example, I'm going to go with H3 for heading 3, and I'm going to say this is a test, so she doesn't think I'm like randomly messaging her, but that's what I'm doing now with all the other fonts, bold and italic still currently accessible. Now, this next part, if I were to hover to discover, let's say I really didn't need this and I just need to clear it all out. If I clear this button, That's going to turn off everything that I've used to change my formatting. And now it's back to normal. So if I hit the enter key, notice it went back. So I'm going to highlight that to demonstrate it, and I'm going to turn that all back off. So now it went back to the normal settings. This went back, is formatted the same as my original hello. That's what that button does. These next ones, I'm just going to highlight this over so you can see it, but within this body of what I'm texting or messaging here, I have also the alignment. So this is, for example, far left. I can center it. I can even use bullets if you like. So, you can absolutely do that. Or if I'm not happy with bullets, I can use numbers for my formatting. So this is a lot nicer because I don't have to go to Outlook. I could just do it all here and still format it in the way that I want. So it's a lot more rich, if you will, as opposed to a standard chat. Now, perhaps this is a quote. So this is the next option here. It's a quote. So if I were to click there, it's going to let me know this is actually a quote, and it highlighted it to, in essence, show that. But maybe I need to share a link with her, and that's what this next part is. Maybe I just need to insert a link. So for example, I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to click this link so that I can insert something. Maybe I want to say like google.com. But I'm going to say click here instead. So in the text to display, that's what she'll see to just click. And it's going to say just Google. Or actually, let's just do www.hcd.ca.gov so she can check that out. So notice it's always going to give me a prompt. Is my URL a bad broken link? In this case, I clearly updated it. So I'm going to click insert. And now she no longer sees that full-on website. She would just click here. So again, creating a rich conversation here, folks, not just a standard chat. Really awesome, because why go all the way to Outlook when I'm already in Teams and working a lot with it? That is the goal here, to kind of expedite that. So as we're playing around here with a lot of the different formatting tools within chat, there's a couple more. So if you hit this ... maybe I even have tables, or maybe I really messed up and need to repeat all of that. That's those options. So I'm just going to click enter. Notice I haven't formally chatted with her just yet. I'm still formatting my messages, creating a lot more rich in context. I'm going to click that ... more options. Perhaps I want, again, just say horizontal rule, maybe like that's a separator line, if you will. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to click this ... one more time, and I'm going to give her a table. Maybe it's like a 3 by 4. Okay. And I'm going to say click, or maybe I need to create something with her. So I'm going to say first name, and then I'm going to tab over and I'm going to say last name. Maybe I need a phone number. So I'm kind of getting some ideas from her, perhaps just through a table without ever getting an Outlook email sent out to her. And maybe I need their email, right? So really basic. As you can see, there's just some fun here with that, but this is a rich conversation now, no longer just a standard chat. And how I enabled that at the top right corner, once I click this more fonts of capability, this launches all those other subtools, and I click on this ... and here we are creating a lot more fun within the body of this particular message. Somebody had asked me before, do we have the capability to delete our chats? And officially, the answer is it depends. Is it a chat or is it a post? They're actually different. So in a chat, for example, when I click on this ... there's a more. This is normally my reactions. Usually there's a delete key, but for purposes of HCD, we don't have it enabled. So you can't delete a chat. In this case, because I have, I'm just going to copy this all before I mess up. Okay, so I did a Control A. If you want to know that, Control A, copy all, and Control C to copy it. One more time, just in case. Okay. I can delete this, and there's my full chat. Now, do I really want to discard it? It's always going to make me double check. In this case, I'm going to cancel to make sure I share my work with you real quick. So I'm going to click that send button through the bottom right corner of the triangle, and there it is. Now, this is a chat, as I mentioned. So if I go to ... there's usually a delete key. It's not there, as you could see. But going back to that point, as I mentioned, there's a difference between a post and a chat. Right now, a chat is a private conversation, or there's up to technically 9 folks that could be in a chat. So if I go to my Teams channel, if I'm in a Teams channel, again, there's usually a general Teams. That's always a default. So here, if I were in this view, maybe I'm getting a lot of just information coming my way, but it's a good information that I need to keep. Great, I'll keep it in there. But for example, this is from a previous class that I had, and I really don't need it. So this is a post because I'm in the generals team under post. Notice it doesn't say chat. So if I were to hover over here, similar to a chat message, and I instead of my reactions, I click that dot, 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 I have more functionality because this is a post. I can save it. So for example, I'm gonna save this by using this bookmark. And what happens is I get this ribbon at the top right indicating it's saved. Maybe it's something I need to go back on. Now, going back to how to delete it, if I hit that dot, 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 there's my delete key. So I can delete a post, not necessarily a chat. Okay, so it's slightly different conversations. Otherwise, perhaps I want to mark it as unread. For example, this is more of like an Outlook conversation. Maybe I need a direct link. My favorite part to this part in a post, generally this is something important for the entire channel. You have the ability to share this as an Outlook email. So if I click on share to Outlook, what's going to happen is it's going to double check. Are you sure, Bethany? And if so, here's my Outlook box. It's slightly different than what you're used to. It's kind of like a mobile view. I'm going to send it to myself just so that you could check it out. Oh, you know what? And you know what? I forgot. I can't send to myself, but there's my personal email. Maybe I could pull up that for you. But I'll say to Jasmine, since she's my other trainer, this is a test, just so that she knows. And again, very similar to standard Outlook email, I have full capability to format it as necessary. But this, for example, is just a screenshot within Outlook that will send to her. So maybe this is such an important message, I need to go ahead and send it. So I could do that in 2 ways. At the top left, I can click on send, or I can click on just send. And I could even schedule send as and do it later. So for now, I'm just going to hit send, and dun, dun, dun. Guess what? I never left Teams to go send that email. I'm doing it right out of Teams. I did not go to Outlook at all. Now, what I was originally trying to demonstrate to you was how to delete this. I'm going to click this dot, dot, dot. Again, this is there's other options while I have this view open. Pin it as if it's something important. If I need to turn off the notifications because there's just so many coming through, that's how you could do though. And then the more options or other apps built into this channel. For example, I can create a task or a poll directly from Teams, not necessarily going to the app. So I'm still going to go to this and I'm going to delete this message. Now it shows it's deleted, I'm sorry, because I did delete the post. All right. Now, before I did that, I mentioned I had saved it. And how do you check your saved messages? So for example, let's say I'm going to go back to my chat at the top left corner, and I'm back with that chat with Jasmine. Let's say I really like this wow. So if I right click over it, or I'm sorry, not right click, but if I hover over it, there's your dot, 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 and then I can save this message. So for demonstrations, I saved not only a post, but I also saved a actual message, or chat, I should say. So in this case, how to double check where those are all found. If I go back to my BR top right, as in your initials, my profile, right below my status, there's what's called saved. And this is like a bookmark. So if you clicked on saved, here you are. Any saved messages will appear on my left-hand side. So these are any saved messages. And here it is. If I were to click on them, again, that exact message would appear. So it's always in the order of most recent to the the last one. So just know that is how you have rich conversations, particularly in Teams. If you have any questions on that, feel free to just chat with me later after you do this, but go ahead and take a pause. What we just did, folks, was check out how to do rich conversations in Teams. And that's our second module. Once you're ready, we're going to go to the third module, which is schedule meetings directly from Teams. So at this point, as I'd mentioned, we're going to go ahead and schedule meetings from Teams. So let's get back in the app and you can join me on your desktop. And to launch how to schedule a Teams meeting, you're going to click on the calendar application on the far left corner. Notice as soon as I clicked on it, it's in that dark purple. So that's how I know what mode I'm in. And let's say I need to schedule a meeting with Jasmine like now, it's probably urgent. So for example, regardless of your viewing mode, it could be on the day, could be the week, could be the month, totally up to you. But to schedule a meeting at the top right-hand corner, if I click this plus new meeting button, so plus new meeting, I'll click there, and very similar to an Outlook scheduled meeting, this is those same prompts. The difference, I'm in Teams. So all of this will sync back and I'll demonstrate with you shortly. So for example, mine is called New Meetings. I don't have a title just yet for it. So I'm going to say test meeting with Jasmine to discuss ABC project. If I could just type, there we go. Dun, dun. So I have a title, right? You always want to have a title. Why are you meeting? Who's going to join? So I'm going to say Jasmine. She's my other peer. And when are we going to meet? We're going to meet pretty late today. I'm so sorry, Jasmine. Not a good look. But just in case, we're going to say about 5:30 to 6 just because it's so last minute. So it's just a 30-minute session. If you need it all day, you will toggle the switch on and you no longer have that time block. But I don't need that. We just need 30 minutes. So I'm going to click there. Now, what if there was others that need to join us, but they're not as required as in they're optional? They don't necessarily have to attend. So I clicked on that optional button at the far right, and that's how this field was enabled. Right now, there's nobody else. I'm going to keep that blank, but know you have that capability. And then if this is a recurring meeting, something that may be covered frequently, we can also set that up here. No need to do it in Outlook. In this case, if you were to do a recurring meeting, we have every work weekday. So anywhere between Monday through Friday. Is it going to be a daily recurring meeting, weekly, monthly, yearly, or a customized view? For purposes of this, just for demonstration, I'm going to keep in do not repeat. No need to do so. But what's even best about Teams scheduling from here a whole meeting, I can include an entire channel. As I mentioned, channels are like the equivalent of an entire building, lots of folks. So if I'm looking for a distro list in Outlook, this is practically very similar to that. The difference, we call it channels. So if I were to click on add channel, anybody I'm associated with, because I have to be part of that channel, they will default here. So here's some of my other channels. So if I were to click on maybe training team, everybody on my team will get this invitation. I'm not going to do that now, but know that you have such capabilities. I'm going to click out of it. And then if there's a location, maybe there's a meeting room, there's a place, great, but it's very evident this is through Microsoft Teams, so it defaults to a Microsoft Teams link. No need for a physical location. This would be like a conference room, a building, etc. Notice you have a room list depending on what building you're trying to meet in, if that were the case, okay? Now, otherwise, just like all other Outlook emails, very similar to there, here in Teams, when you're scheduling a new meeting, you have a body to give more details of the meeting. So I'm going to say, let's discuss plans for ABC project. Okay, just to give her a heads up, maybe instead of keeping it a simple format there, I want to bold it, italicize it, highlight it, make it larger. Very similar to what we did in the creating rich conversations module right before this. And again, if you have others such as bullets, maybe I have like list 1, list 2, and list 3. I can include that, including some forms. So if I highlight over, there you are. I now have it formatted very similar to an Outlook email. Really comes down to your preference. But otherwise, let's say this is all we need. Before I actually send this, I do want to share some other best practices. Depending on where you're working, sometimes there's other time zones out there, believe it or not. So if you need to change that at this bottom time zone, this is where you can change it. Of course, most of us are in California. So otherwise you would just select the Pacific Standard. It's there by default. Now, I want to make sure before I even send this that Jasmine's actually even available. So I always encourage you, go ahead and click on that scheduling assistant. So scheduling assistant was at the very top next to the details of the meeting. Now, if I were to click on this, I can see her availability. Now, as of right now, she does show open because we're both aligning here. There's nothing really scheduled, so that would work. Notice if I were to backtrack a little bit, say between like 1 and 2, oh, we're both kind of busy. That would not be a good time for us. So this is how you can kind of know. If you need to move this around, by the way, I can pull as in click and drag, click and drag. So no need to update the times manually. I can just click and drag. So right now I'm just going to keep it at 5:30 to 6 because it seems to work for the both of us. Again, if I need more attendees as an optional attendees, I could do that on the far left and update my location if necessary. So at this time, I'm going to say, you know what, this looks pretty cool. So I'm just going to double check, go back to my details, and that way I can make sure everything looks accurate. So far it looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that send. And notice now in my calendar view, it's there in Teams. I just did it. I don't have to refresh. It's all doing it real time. So let me share with you in my Outlook if that came up, just for reference. So I'm going to pull over my Outlook here just so you could see. I'm going to go to my calendar view for today. Again, I just created that. So here's that test meeting to Jasmine, roughly 5:30 to 6, only because for demonstration purposes, we're not going to meet, but just to share with you, it is syncing real time to Outlook, but I never even used Outlook to schedule send that. Now here's a couple other tips while you're scheduling meetings. And this is only once you actually schedule the meeting. So if I double click the meeting event from my view in Teams, here's that same view that we had before, okay? But for those of you that have a lot of meetings, I highly encourage you, definitely check out some of these other options. I've had questions on this in classes before, so I just want to mention it here. When you're scheduling these meetings, again, not until it's after the event, as in once you actually set it up in the calendar, you actually have a little bit more functionality. If you take a look in this meeting details, if you remember before, I had just the details and the scheduling assistant to see if Jasmine was available. Now in this case, notice I have the chat, I have a files tab and more. So we're going to break that down right now, what that actually means. And this is more of because, again, Teams is built for collaborating and communicating, not just now, but what if I have to go back and review the notes during the meeting? Maybe we collaborate real time and I need to use some information from that meeting before or after the event. So that's why you have more options here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this chat, for example. In this case, our meeting obviously hasn't happened. I'm not with her right now, but if there was a chat that he needs to backtrack, here you are in that chat view, and I could kind of backtrack to see anything that was discussed, shared, and so forth. Now, what's pretty cool about this too is as soon as you create a meeting event, I'm going to click on my chat on the far left. This is the other view that I had, right? So we clicked on the chat tab in the meeting invitation. In my chat view, there will be a default chat thread and the name of it will match the name of your meeting. So for example, at the very top left corner, I have the test meeting with Jasmine. If I were to click on that for the details, again, I hadn't met with her just yet, but this is where I can always backtrack for the chats, okay? So I'm going to go back to that calendar view since we were talking about creating and scheduling meetings from Teams. I'm going to double click again that same event. And we checked out the chat tab at the top. We're going to now check out the files. So if there is a file, right, that was shared with us collaborating, I can backtrack here. As I mentioned, this clearly didn't happen, so there's nothing, but even after the event, I can go back and check out these files. We'll check out what I mean in just a bit when we get to the next module of file sharing. Otherwise, maybe there's more events that I need to know or details. So if I click on this details tab, this just has to do with the details of the meeting. Here's the link, here's the call-in number, conference number, etc. for those that need to join via phone. Otherwise, there's the Teams link if they have the application, either desktop or mobile app as well. We already saw the scheduling assistant, which is here in the next tab over. So I won't go through that, but just know you can access that here again. And then, as I mentioned, to really endorse teams and really maximize meeting real time. Most of us are taking notes. Why not take it for the team? What I mean by that is click on the meeting notes. And as the meeting begins, whoever's taking notes, this will update real time and it stays there. So it's a great way to track again before and after meetings if you ever need to reference anything that happened. So I would just simply click on this notes purple button. And now it's going to think for a moment, but now I could just capture meeting notes. This is what we discussed, for example. So if I was typing this as Jasmine was talking, I can capture it in there. Notice as soon as I click on this next field, I have more functionality, very similar to a Word document. The difference, I never left Teams. So it's all in one spot. And that is, again, how to use meeting notes while you're in a Teams meeting. The next part that I'm going to talk about, but we won't spend too much time because it's not the purpose of this particular recorded session, but we also have what's called Whiteboard. If you remember pre-COVID days when we go to the office and we're all in this conference room trying to brainstorm, we had whiteboards. And that same concept is now here, but digital. So this whiteboard will come with us no matter where we are. We can erase it as much as we want, but we'll still have the information. So come check this out with me. If you have a mock test event, just like I did, if you can enable your whiteboard, we're going to play around with it real quick. So the whiteboard, this is just an online application. No, there's a desktop application, but we're not approved for that just yet. So it's only through Teams as of right now that you'll see this view. So just to read this from left to right, okay, you have this little pane here with some create options such as notes, text, and so forth. Let's just say we don't really need that. So if you close it out using that X, it's gone, but you didn't lose it. So if you need it back, you just hit this plus sign, okay? And that's how you can launch it back. So I'm just going to minimize it by closing it out again one more time, but I'm going to share these next markup tools with you. Think of your old school drawing board, but this time, again, it's all digital. And so these are your different pens to do so. So join me. We're just going to click on this far left one. It's a pen that's in black. So if I hover over it, not click it, hover over it, it's going to share with me what we're talking about. So if I click there, I can use this. Maybe I really need to brainstorm with Jasmine or really thinking of some ideas, but they're all they're not like letters or numbers. Maybe it's a process flow. So let's say I need to draw her a nice symbol, and it's supposedly a flower. Forgive the digital art is all I got to say. But this flower is going to blossom, and maybe it turns into like a tree. Okay, so my point is I'm drawing, but using my mouse. If you have a stylus, you can also do that directly on your laptop if it's enabled. So just know you can draw here as needed. Let's say we don't need the black, and real time, if Jasmine was in this meeting with me, she also will be drawing with me. So it's not limited to just myself. Anybody within the meeting could access the whiteboard and draw with us. So for example, let's say we don't want the black marker, but we want the red marker. So I'm going to click on this red one. And now we're going to say, okay, if that tree grew up, I don't know, it turned into something else. So notice it's going to draw an arrow for me. And it has a little arrow, so it's a red arrow pointing down. I'm not even drawing it. It's going to do it for me. So that's in essence what that guy does. Now, let's say we're not happy with this arrow. We need to make it multicolors. So that's this next one, this pen, and it's a little bit more rainbow colors. So you'll see what I mean by that. I'm going to draw like a square. Or I'm sorry, that's actually a rectangle. I should learn my shapes. So anyways, this is my rectangle. Okay, let's say that's like, I don't know, our process flow, whatever it is we're trying to brainstorm on. So that's my rectangle. And if I need to highlight it, that's the next marker over. So I'm going to highlight it. If I could just get it in there, kind of little tough with my mouse, right? This next part, this is what's called the laser pointer. So for example, again, think of your old school whiteboard. Maybe it's dark in there, so we're trying to point to the screen. That's technically what this is. I'm going to have it point here. Okay, so that's my pointer. Notice it's just a one-way thing. It's not to stick on the board. It's just pointing so I can get the immediate attention to those watching this digital whiteboard. Now let's say, based on this process flow, I don't know about that flower, but it doesn't really look like a flower and it's not going to happen like that. So I can erase that. And how to launch that, I'm going to click the eraser button, which is the one to the right of the laser pointer. And I'm just going to erase that. And I just clicked and drag, and then it would delete it for me. And that's how you erase anything on your whiteboard. Let's say instead of that flower, we're going to start off with this like rectangle. So this next portion, this dot, 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 they call it Lasso Select. Think of it like a snippet, if you will. So I'm going to click on there. That way I know it's enabled. And if I hover over the section, so let's say it's that rectangle. When I click on there, it's going to give me this box. What do I want to do with this snippet? Do I want to copy it? So I'm going to hover over it just to share with you. Hover to discover, I like to call it. So you're going to copy it. Do you want to trash it? Do you want to save it as a image and give it an alt text? You can have that capability. And there's this dot, dot, dot for more, very similar to PowerPoint. Does it need to go on the front or the back? So really up to you. I don't really have a need, but let's just say I need to copy this. So I'm going to click over here somewhere where that flower once was, and I'm going to paste it by Control V. If I just click, drag, drop, I now have that original one, and all I did was actually the highlighted box, not necessarily the purple box. So again, just depending on what you're selecting, that's what this is used for. So again, that's not the purpose of this, but just to have an engaging meeting with others through Teams. These are other functions you can use. Since we're on the whiteboard part, we're using the markup tools. As I talked about before, there's more. So on my far left, if I hit this plus sign, this is pretty cool because these are the recent updates from Teams in Whiteboard. There's what's called notes. So maybe I want to use like a sticky label. If you remember those, I can choose the colors. I can use if it's in grid. Again, I'm not going to play with this too much here for time purposes, but no, that's there. If I click the back key, maybe I want to create a text message or put some text in there. So if I click on text and I go in this box, it says type here, and I'm going to say maybe phase 1. We're drawing out our process flow. And if I need to do this dot, 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 I still have all those functions. So that's how I can put some text in there. Maybe I don't need text, but I need like shapes. So at the far left, I can click on shapes, and here's my pre-built ones. Let's say, as opposed to my rectangle, I want this triangle. So I'm going to click here, and I can expand it. I can minimize it. Really up to you. Very similar to just like Word. If you need to change the color scheme, you can do that. So I'm not going to do any of that. But otherwise, as of right now, just know you have that functionality with shapes. So I'm going to hit the back arrow key here on the far left just to give you some other options. Maybe I need to give Jasmine some feedback. She's drawn this and I really like it. So if I click this reactions button, here's a lot of other ways I can say. So I'm going to say, I really like this. We're going to endorse this process flow. I really like this phase 1. So I'm going to give her a green check indicating yes. But you know what? This tree thing, it's not really the best. So let's like cross it out as a no. Really up to you how you want to use that. But those are reactions just in case. So I'm going to hit this back arrow key one more time to demonstrate the rest, but maybe I have an image that I want to upload into this. I can do that by clicking on there, and I can pull it from my file explorer. And then the beauty of Whiteboard that I personally really like is you have what's called templates. So this templates, maybe you're truly brainstorming and you got a process flow, but you can't really map it out. Here's some pre-built templates. Maybe you're problem solving. The one I really personally like, and maybe because it's related to training, there's what's called games. And in games, you can put like there's the 2 truths, 1 lie. I won't even go into all that, but no, again, you have a lot of different games that you could play with. You can even change the color scheme. And then again, learning and workshops. So have some fun with this. We're not going to go through it all because again, it's related to Whiteboard. The purpose of this training is Teams, but no, Whiteboard is built into that so that when you do have your Microsoft Teams meeting, you can really maximize and collaborate together. And it's all saved into your Teams notes here. So last but not least, since we talked about Whiteboard, the last item to the right of that is what's called the breakout rooms. So let's say during the meeting with Jasmine, our other peers happen to, I don't know, be with us in this meeting. If there were breakout groups, I can set that up here automatically for them the meeting. So before we met, we can have that set up if you know you're going to plan to do that. But no, if you're not knowing to do that, then you still have that capability even within the function of the actual meeting. Last but not least, as all other Teams meetings and Teams itself, there's always this plus button. The plus button is going to give us more apps, more capabilities, right? A host of other collaboration tools. So when I hit that plus sign, it took me to some of the top apps that are used. Let's say I really just can't find in this views. If I click this more apps, similar to what we saw at the very beginning, or just kind of understanding how Teams work, here are all those apps. Maybe I'm going to now, between her and I, we're going to set up a plan together, and we decide we're going to use the planner app, and I'm going to click on open. And now between her and I, if we're creating a plan, it's now in my planner app, but I never have to leave Teams. It's going to be accessible right in here. So pretty cool. Let me just go back to this calendar view to show you what happened. So I'm clicking the events tab that I had. And here we go. We're not going to see it here, but if I were to launch this meeting, we're going to see that planner is fully launched between the two of us, and we can start collaborating real time as long as we're in the planner app. So otherwise, what we just talked about was going through the calendar and scheduling an actual meeting, but all the actual extra functionalities that come with scheduling a meeting. The last thing that I'll leave with you on this topic is if you need to have an impromptu meeting, like meet now, I will click on this Meet Now button, and that's how you can generate a quick call. It could go to a lot of folks if you need it to. I can't do it right now since we're in Teams now, but no, you have that capability for an impromptu, not scheduled call. And the last part I'll leave you with is sometimes, depending on your role, you might need to have a very large meeting, and we call that Microsoft Teams Live. So instead of a new meeting, if I pull down, there's what's called live events. Means you're broadcasting. I highly encourage, if you don't have to do it, don't do it. That would be for very large audiences. I'm talking maybe 300 and north of that. Anything less than that, a standard Teams meeting is just fine. And if you ever need to schedule a call or some sort of meeting or webinar on that scale, do submit a SolarWinds ticket so that IT can truly support you, so that you'll have the best experience for that, not only as the host, but for the end users, most importantly. So otherwise, let's get back to what we're talking about here. What we just talked about is the second module, we're creating very rich conversations, but part of that is building that out through a scheduled meeting. So again, lots of fun and lots of capability there. The next part that we're going to go over is check out how file sharing works, okay? And file sharing is pretty awesome because, again, Teams is built to collaborate real time, not having to leave the application. So I'm going to share with you what I mean by that. So when you're ready, go ahead and pause the video and you're going to join me back in the desktop app. So if you're ready, again, we're now going into the fourth module, which was, again, file sharing. And anything Microsoft Office related, such as Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Power BI, etc. All of those could work real time, and you never have to actually once open Outlook to schedule them out. And we're going to check out that now and have some fun with that. So on my desktop app, right, I'm here within Teams. I'm going to pretend like I met with Jasmine, and we're going to work on this project together, maybe a PowerPoint deck that we need to work on, okay? So what I mean by that is, if I click on this Files tab, of course, we have nothing in there. We didn't really meet, but let's say I have something that I started off, and this is where you're going to use your test exercise files. So I'm going to share this with you. In my File Explorer, for example, I have a PowerPoint that I've been working with on, and that's what I want her to work on with me. So I'm going to drag that into this box. Notice it says share files in this chat, so I can drag and upload or just share. So I like to, because I'm lazy, I'm going to click and drag from my File Explorer window, and now that's going to be loaded here shortly. And it takes a moment depending on the file size, but you can always check that out here. Maybe I need to do that again. Let's try it out. and it doesn't want to. That's okay. So let's try this out. Usually what happens, it comes up here, but another way you can share a file with somebody else. If, let's say I'm in on this chat view, so I'm going to maximize this. Okay, I'm in the chat view of the meeting. There is multiple options down here. And earlier, for example, we talked about the rich conversation by allowing all these other fonts to grow and be part of that. So we were typing hello, this is a test. Oops. Let's say this is an urgent meeting. Again, we're related to creating files, but it's urgent. So there's this exclamation point. If I click on there, I can click, is this a standard message? So that means it's just a chat. If it's important, it's going to be marked as important as in red, and she's going to get that as in a red mark. But if I label it as urgent, that means for every 2 minutes, for at least 20 minutes, she's going to get a notification. And trust me, she's going to be so annoyed, she will absolutely do something about it. So I highly discourage using that if you absolutely don't need it, but just know you have that capability here, similar to Outlook if you need to mark it as urgent. So otherwise, that's that. But I'm going to file share with her. So I'm going to attach that file. To click on it and include it there, I can use this pin, and I can upload directly from my OneDrive or my local desktop. So right now I have it on my laptop, and I have it under this file, and I'm going to call it this guy, and we're going to say, hey, Jasmine, you and I, if we could work on this together, awesome. We're going to just, I already had it from a different class, so please disregard that message. But here we go. I'm going to make sure she has it, and now together we are sharing, bottom right, one particular PowerPoint. So from here, okay, I have just shared with her. She can now access this and open it real time. If I were to click on the Files tab, this is also that same file. Notice it was just uploaded now. Now here's the thing. If I were to double click on this, so if I'm hovering over the name and double clicking on it, it automatically opens the the PowerPoint file. And notice this is through the online view. This is not your real PowerPoint, as somebody told me. So if you're not happy with this, there is a way to open it in the desktop. I'm going to go back real quick by using my back arrow key to share with you where we were at. And we were in the test meeting with Jasmine. This is that file. So you can double click it, it will launch it. And again, Teams is online based. That's why it opened in the online view of PowerPoint. Now, there's a couple ways that you directly can either download or open it. So depending on your preference, just in case, to the right of the file name on the far right, there's this dot, dot, not, dot, dot, dot. It automatically opened in Teams. That's the first thing I did. Now, open in the real PowerPoint, as somebody had told me, that's the desktop app. So I'm going to share that with you now. If I click there, what's going to happen is here's that same PowerPoint in the desktop view. So here's your quote unquote real PowerPoint. Let me show you the ribbon just in case there's that, right? I can make the changes in your standard PowerPoint. So I'm going to close this out real quick for purposes of the exercise. If I go back to that dot, 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 maybe I don't want to do it in Teams, but I don't want to do it in desktop, but I want to be on the online mode. So that's the browser mode. If I double click there, notice I went through Microsoft Edge. It's going to allow me to open the file, and here we are downloading right now that PowerPoint deck. Here's that same exact file, and if I need to make changes, I will go ahead and edit it. So I'm going to have some fun here with you guys and demonstrate. I'm in the online mode. Oops, I get an error there. Let me close out of that. Okay. Oh, I'm in read only, so I'm not going to do that. Let me just close this out. So otherwise, we're having some fun here, folks, but I'm going to collaborate. So let's just say Jasmine and I were working on this together. When I click on this, maybe I prefer in Teams because I don't want to open a whole nother application. I just got too many windows open, what have you. So you can join me in this exercise as you try it yourself. But notice in the first title, it says fun mock presentation. Let's do that. So we're going to go down to say slide 2. And under slide 2, where it says more fun in the white, right below in black, where it said edit here as needed, going to have you say your name. So I'm going to say Bethany whoops, if I could just type my name, was here. And go ahead and make a nice different color. So for example, I'm going to select my font color is green to make it stand out. And I'm going to make it bold, big, and bad. Basically, I'm going to make it really big so you could see my change. And then to really attest to that, on slide 3, you're going to say the same thing. You were here. So Bethany was here. But I'm going to change the color and the font just so you could see that real time it's changing in the deck, even though I'm in the Microsoft Teams online view of PowerPoint. Okay, so notice I updated slide 2, slide 3. Let's say, whoops, I need to multitask. I just got called into the meeting. Totally forgot about this. I'm closing out all my windows. I hope that updated. I never hit save. Let's check it out. So we pretend I'm done with that meeting. If I click on this Files tab, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I was working on that. But let me check it out. I'm not even, I'm going to try it out in the desktop, meaning the real PowerPoint view, desktop mode. So I clicked on there. And that same document, that same deck where I totally might have worked on it in Teams, but I was so caught up in multitasking. Take a look. All of this was auto-save. So at the top left-hand side, it's on. So it's syncing real time to my OneDrive. Here's Bethany was here on slide 2. Bethany was here in slide 3. To demonstrate this is syncing back and forth. Again, I'm in the desktop view. We're going to try that again in Teams, but this time be in the online view. And I'm going to say Bethany too was here. Okay, so you can type in something similar with your name, but I'm going to change the color as in a red, bold, really large, just something different so you can clearly see that this was a change. And not only on slide 3, but for example, if I go to slide 4, let me even put my name in the name field. So I'm going to put Bethany, but we're going to make this a nice red, bold, and big. Big and bad. There we go. Okay, so slide 3 and slide 4, we have just made some changes on in the desktop PowerPoint view. Again, maybe it's like lunchtime, I get pulled aside, I'm clearly multitasking, I totally don't remember, so I'm just going to close out all my windows because I'm thinking it's slowing me down. And maybe I chatted away, I texted away, what have you, I joined a meeting, and then I finally remember I'm supposed to work with Jasmine on this deck. So I'm going to go back to real quick the meeting that I originally met with her at. Find that file, and even though I made some changes, I'm going to really hope that it worked and saved. So let's see here. If I double click the name of the PowerPoint, notice I'm still in Teams. I never left. Here it is, PowerPoint online through Teams, never opening the application. And if I scroll down to slide 3, here's the more recent update in red. Slide 4, my name in red. So notice it's syncing real time, whether I'm in the online mode or desktop mode. Really powerful, folks, because if you have Teams like I did in other continents, in my previous role, this can be a game changer. And if you're really fancy, you can do this all on your phone. I know, it's so amazing. So just now we're on the desktop right now. You can absolutely make those changes anywhere you have access to the World Wide Web. So that, my friends, is how to formally file share. We were demonstrating with the PowerPoint. There's a secondary exercise that I'm going to have you participate with for purposes of Teams and this training. So how to do so, I'm going to file share, if you remember how to do that with me. So you're going to open up your second exercise file that I recommended to download to your desktop. So this is something I need to collaborate with, for example, with my teammate, and I'm going to share with her through Teams. So as of right now, here is that calendar details. I'm going to go through the Files tab, and I'm going to, let's see if this side works, drag and drop. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So let's try this. I'm going to click this share button. I'm going to get it from my local laptop, find the file, which in this case is labeled as exercise 2, and open it. So now that I've opened it, forgive that message. You should not get that, but this is because I've had it used in previous classes. It is now sharings. And how I know that, at the bottom right, Teams is telling me I'm sharing a file. It takes a moment in Teams to think about it because, again, it's all going through a cloud system, if you will, online. So give it a moment. It may not show right here just yet, but if I check out like our chat, so I'm clicking the chat tab, here it is in the chat. So let's say Jasmine's like, oh, what else do I got to work on? Well, this is an Excel file. So she's going to double click it. I'm going to pretend like I'm working on it with her too. Remember, because I double clicked it, it's automatically open to the default, which is in Teams. If you're not happy with that, yes, we can, just like the PowerPoint, open in the desktop mode as well as in quote unquote the real Excel desktop view. How to do so? This is the online mode, the fastest way to open up if you have a preference for the desktop. There is what's called the editing mode. So towards the top right corner, sort of, there's what's called editing. If you click down, oh, I'm in the viewing mode, sorry. That's why it's not allowing me to change that. So let's close this out just in case. So if I close this out and I go back to that Files tab, and I click that ... Notice that's the first one, why it opened in Teams. Here's open in desktop app. So if I click there and it's opening on my other screen, I'll share with you just shortly where it came in. Here's that same file. The only difference, I'm now in quote unquote the real version of Excel, the desktop. So very similar to the PowerPoint, we're going to make some changes here and we're going to have fun with this. This is a goal list for 2022. So what I want you to do is type in your name and just a quick goal in the instructor-led class, in which there's others. We use SMART goals, and that's what this acronym's for. No need to do so. All we're going to do is keep it simple. Your name, far left, first column. And then we're going to go to that next column under the goal. And what is your goal for like 2022? Let's say I'm going to say teach a MS Teams class. That's my goal. So I put that in here and notice it's in Excel desktop. I know it's syncing because at the far left column, it's on autosave. If you toggle that off, it will not save and sync. So I highly encourage always having your backup, and basically how to do so, you're going to click on that on, and that's how you know it's automatically being saved based on all the changes. Very similar to the PowerPoint. Let's say I get caught up. I am clearly multitasking. We get caught into a meeting and I forget that I'm working on this and I got too many windows. So we're going to close out the desktop. Go ahead and close out your Excel file. We're going to pretend like we chatted. So you click on chat, click on Teams, whatever have you, have some fun with this. But now you remember, ooh, I was supposed to work on something with my peer. So just to backtrack a bit, I'm going to go back to my Files tab. This time's a little different. Maybe I forgot who I was meeting with. It's very realistic. So if I go to my Files tab, anything that I was working on is usually listed here. And there's that last Excel exercise that I was working on. So if I do click on that ... here's that, again, same options of how I can open the file. In this case, I'm going to say I prefer the browser view because we have not tried that just yet. So go and click on open in browser. So this is the Excel online. Not a lot of folks are fans of that, but just know this is just kind of keeping you outside of your comfort zone to teach you something new. So here's that same file. I'm in the online mode and there's the changes I did in the desktop. Notice it's still real time updated. Just to demonstrate that they're still talking to each other, on row 4, so the next row down, I'm going to say Bethany was here again. This time I'm going to bold it. So I'm going to highlight it, bold it, making sure it's red and big so it truly stands out. Man, it's a little too big, so let's just like change up the colors. Instead of red, let me do a nice green. Okay, so again, whatever colors, whatever fonts, whatever have you, we clearly made a change, and you're gonna say hashtag yes in the goal tab. okay? Because we're just having some fun here, making sure that these changes happen. Same thing, and I'm going to put it in that same font and color. So I have it in green, as in Bethany was here again, with hashtag yes, okay? So again, I'm in the online mode. Notice this is Microsoft Edge. There is a URL at the top. This is a browser. Again, I get multitasking. It's very realistic. We leave the house, whatever have you. So we're going to close out this window. And whoop, I forgot. I was supposed to finish something with Jasmine, and let's go figure out where that was. So as of right now, we're going to go ahead and go to, let's say, the calendar view and find that meeting. And here's that meeting I had met with Jasmine. So for example, if I click on the Files tab, and I click on this exercise 2, notice it was 5 minutes ago according to this, but I'm going to click that ... check it out in Teams. So I'm going to say, you know, let's just double click it. It opens in Teams. And here we are, folks. It did not work, did it? Let's see. It was still thinking. Maybe I didn't change this, but here we go. The sync was working. Let's give it a moment to think if there was any other options. Let me try one more. So it's shared on, we're going to try open and desktop. Let's see if I made some changes there. Oh, I must have not saved it. So I probably didn't, but we're going to try this again. Yeah, right. Oh, actually, I'm so sorry. I was looking for something else. It is there. My apologies. Bethany was here in green again. I was looking for something different. I keep changing my colors. Sorry. So anyways, here it is. Bethany was here again in the desktop view. It was very much updated. I was just looking for another color. So if I double clicked it again, there you are in green, the second goal. So again, notice it's syncing real time. And again, for demonstration purposes, this would be an example of collaborating with my team members remotely. So we're all working on the same document, the same PowerPoint, the same, etc. And we're working on it real time and all either through Microsoft Teams, the online view of the online application, so Edge right here in Microsoft Excel, or I even went to the desktop. So no matter how I was doing it, it was syncing real time. And again, all through primarily Teams. So never once did I go to Outlook and say attach, check on this, give me feedback. Never once did we do that because real time we're collaborating. We are fully in the document or the deck and making such changes without even emailing or chatting with one another. So otherwise, that is how you formally file share. We were just demonstrating to recap. In the calendar view, if I was in a very particular meeting, I have a files tab and I can share it as in top left corner, and I can drag and drop technically to the window too, or from the chat, I have the capability to attach it as a file here. So that is, again, my friends, what you could do when you are fully collaborating, but truly file sharing and remotely. So that's what I'm referring to for this particular module in terms of file sharing. Now let's get on to this next module, the 5th module of customization, meaning how do you get Teams to look like how you want it to be? So join me in the desktop app to go and find out how to customize your view of Microsoft Teams. So when I open the desktop view, okay, this is the last thing I had open, my view is slightly customized. What I mean by that, let me zoom in just a tad bit. My apps here don't have to be in the order of activity, chat, Teams, etc. I'm going to click on this ... because we're all kind of used to that. And maybe you need to search an app. So there's a couple things that I directly use. So I'm going to click on this more apps just to get a view of all of them. And for example, I use Planner pretty heavily. If you're not familiar with that, that's a whole separate class, but I'm going to click on open so I can add it as an app, okay, on my left-hand side. So if I right click over it, I'm going to pin it down, meaning I want it to stay in this view. I'm going to add a couple more just for some extra fun. So if I hit this ... again, and maybe I use Power BI instead of searching all apps, I'm going to search just the words, and there we are. I'm going to add it. And now Power BI app is also on the left-hand side. So I'm going to pin it one more time, very similar to what I did with Planner. And I'm going to click on this dot, dot, dot one more time, and I'm going to click on OneNote. So I added 3 different apps: Planner, Power BI, and OneNote. And similar to all the others, OneNote I will also pin. This was the last training, forgive me, with iPhone. So there it is. As you can see, I do use it. So otherwise, I now have multiple apps built into Teams. This is how you can start customizing it for your view. Now, on top of that, as I mentioned, this view of activity, chat, Teams, it does not have to be in that order. Maybe I use Planner the most. So for example, if I can click Planner, I can drag and drop, drag and drop. So I am now reordering my different tiles here. So another item, for example, calls, I like never use that. So I'm just going to right click over it and unpin it. What that means, it's not really there, and I'm going to just keep it to the bottom. But the other apps I do use quite heavily. Like I don't check my activities. So I'm just going to drag and pull down. Not something I generally need. Well, does it want to play with me today? Probably not. Okay, let's try this one more time. No, it didn't. Okay, well, at least my other apps, Power BI, Planner, let's say, for example, OneNote I do use a lot, and I'm going to put that towards the top right after Power BI. Maybe I even want at the very top. Let's see if it want to work with me. Probably not. So activity has to stay there. Sorry, I guess that was a change. But otherwise, your apps, you could still move around. I do use maybe chat and Teams quite heavily, and definitely calendar, so we're going to keep it there. And then, as we talked about before, maybe you don't like this light mode. You want to change it to that dark mode. So we're going to go back to this dot, dot, dot and click on the settings. And now I can enable my dark mode. When I close it out, here is dark mode. If that works better for you, that is absolutely your choice. So I'm going to click here, go back to my settings, and put it on default just for purposes of this training. So otherwise, we learned how to change your view with a customization. There's going to be a little bit more functionality when we check out the mobile app, but otherwise, as you could see, there's a lot you could do with Teams itself, just from a customized view, and if you're truly collaborating, a lot more with the apps, and it's truly dependent on what you need. Again, if you end up deciding you don't need particular apps, so if I don't need OneNote, if I right click over the app on the far left, I can unpin or uninstall. I'm going to uninstall it. And I'll still keep maybe Power BI and Planner. So again, depending on your needs, you get to customize Microsoft Teams as much as you want. Another customization we just talked about on the far left side, this quick launch, depending on which app you're selecting. So let's say I'm going to go to chat. And there's just clearly some chats I really don't need to see ever anymore. So it's going to go in the order of recent to the most dated. So if I click on this down key, I can get rid of that. But basically, let's say I never need to use like this test meeting. So to the right of it, I have a dot, dot, dot. If you click there, dot, dot, dot is again more options. So I can mark it as unread. I can pin it, meaning keep it at the top. If you get a lot of notifications and the meeting is over, you can mute it. That's how you get rid of the sounds. But we don't have the ability to really delete threads right now, but you can hide it. So I'm going to go and hide it. Let's say I really don't need another meeting here. It's this one, and I'm going to just double click or just click, and I click on hide. And now I'm just slowly getting rid of that. So just know that's very possible for any of the applications you click on. We're just demonstrating through the chat. If I click on the left side for Teams, let's say, for example, the sandbox channel, I only need that when I'm in a training class. So if I click on the dot, 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 I can hide it. I don't need to see it. I just need the things that I need frequently. Let's say I don't need this LMS. I'm going to also dot, 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 click there and hide it. Now I just need my Teams information. So that's, again, another customization you could do. As we talk about customization, one thing I do want to share with you, as we're talking about the different apps on the far left, at the very top here, it's always going to give you the label of the application you're choosing. So for example, I have chat. To the right of that, there's a filtering option. So depending on the criteria that you're searching for, you can filter it down to whatever you need. Let me share with you what I mean by that. If we click on, I'm in the chat function, the filter box, okay, I can filter by name. So for example, if I'm looking for Jasmine, anything related to Jasmine will come up, okay? But if I click out of that by hitting the X, if I hit that filter button, maybe I want to filter it by a meeting or in red or muted conversations, I can do that. So there's a lot more functionality with the filtering options. If you check out the Files tab, for example, usually you can have filtering options there. So like Teams, here's my filter, I can filter again more. So it's pretty consistent just depending on the criteria you're searching for. So just know, again, this is what you could do within Teams when we're referring to customization. And that, my friends, is the 5th module, customizing Teams. The last module that we're going to have some fun with is the mobile app. Why be stuck on the desktop when I can be at the beach still working? I'm just saying, why limit yourself? It's not pretty healthy to be sitting there on the desk all day. So what I'm referring to is the mobile app of Teams. So what I'm going to share with you is my desktop, or I'm sorry, not my desktop, but my mobile view. What we've been doing is on the computer on my desktop. So in just a moment, you're going to see that I am able to also do everything that I've done on the desktop directly on my phone. So give me 1 second. We are going to broadcast directly from my phone. And here we go in 3, 2, 1. You should now see my HCD iPhone in your view. And yep, I am sharing my screen. I just want to check that out, how it's looking for you folks. So right now you have my iPhone screen. This is my HCD iPhone. And yes, you're really going to get to know me now, but that's a whole new class for just the iPhone alone. We are focused, folks, on Microsoft Teams. This part is the mobile app. So for example, in my second row down on the far left, I have the purple Teams icon. If you tap on there, and I'm going to tap on there, this is the meeting that we're in now. I'm not going to need anything on there, so I'm going to backtrack a bit. And to the top left, I have a back arrow key. And I have what's called a floating window. This is what I'm currently viewing since we're in a meeting right now, recording this particular session. But everything that I mentioned on the desktop is clearly here. The difference, because it's a smaller screen, is just the layout slightly different. So all the icons that were on my far left on the desktop, those are now at the very bottom. So, and still labeled left to right. So for example, if I tap on the bottom left corner under activity, this is that activity feed that I shared with you through my desktop at the beginning. If I click on Teams, this is those same teams that I shared with you on my desktop. And in fact, any updates that I did, such as those hidden teams, they're also viewed in the same view just like that. So similar to the desktop, my mobile view will reflect that as well because it's syncing real time. It's the same profile. I'm still myself. Nothing has changed. So again, I have the same capabilities right here in the mobile view. The cool part about this, right, if you're truly on the go and really maximizing just being a remote worker while in this telework environment, if I click on chat at the bottom left, here is those same chats that I shared with you before just on the desktop. For example, I was chatting with Jasmine and here's the same chat to her. And now I'm going to type, this is from my phone. But why do that when I can just send her a picture? So for example, I'm going to hit that plus key at the far left, the little purple plus. And very similar to the desktop, we had all the buttons there to perhaps put a GIF, etc. Those are just still functional here in the mobile view. So for example, I'm going to click on GIF or tap on, sorry, GIF. GIFs are basically just moving photos. So I'm going to say, wow. How about that? Wow. Just like mind blown because I am on my phone. So I'm going to click on wow and send it to her. from my phone. So just like before when we talked about the creating rich messages, it's not necessarily just limited to your desktop. If I hit this, I'm going to type message, so where it says hello, if I hit, if I double tap there, I can actually enable a greater view there. So for example, at the far right, let me hide this up a little bit. So when I tap on the screen in that field where I'm commenting and typing the word hello, I have format. If I tap on there, those same keys that I was sharing before to bold, sorry, it's not reflecting, I'm noticing right now, but it will say bold. It's not showing in the screen for you guys. There we go. Now it is. So when I tapped on format, there's my bold. I'm going to say this in bold is in italicized. Now I tapped italicized and is cool. And I'm going to underline the word cool. Those same functions that again that we were doing in the desktop is still here on my mobile view. I'm just typing on my mobile phone. So I can still tap there and voila. Again, but why type? Why do all this work when I can just get the pictures to do it for me? So check this out. If I hit this plus key, I'm enabling a greater message. Before we had the urgency, there's priority and more. Those are the other options. But one thing that is truly different about the mobile view as opposed to the desktop, I can actually scan in a document. So for example, I'm going to demonstrate this right now. On my far right, I have in this type of message field, there's an emoji to the right and there's a camera key. I'm going to click on the camera key and I can choose, is it a photo that I've already taken or is it something that I need to do right now through my camera? So I'm going to just demonstrate. I'm going to select the camera button and I'm going to find something random to take a picture of. There's the photo that I took a photo of. If I need to crop it, if I need to edit it, what have you, I can do all that on my mobile phone. But I'm just going to say, happy with it. So we're going to tap on done and send. But why limit myself to just a photo? Sometimes, especially for work purposes, we have a lot of forms or documents. You can scan in a form or document directly from the Teams app by the camera button. So I'm going to try and demonstrate this one more time. When I select the camera key at the far right, again, I get two options, camera or photo library. We're going to select camera. And if you notice at the very bottom, I have multiple options. It defaulted to photo because I'm going to take a photo of something. Well, if I scroll to the right, technically I can also record a video. We're not going to do that. But there's another option called document. So let's say I have a form that I need to scan and fill out. And so, for example, forgive the lighting, but here's the form. I'm going to capture this document. So I just took a photo of it, but using the document. So notice there's some boxes around it. That's because it's capturing it as a document. And I get to confirm, does it look good or not? In this case, I'm just going to say sure by confirming it. And now that I did that, I'm going to tap on done. And there's that same form. The difference, it's scanned in as a document. So when I tap on send, here's that same form. If you want to get really fancy, I'm going to tap on this camera key one more time and select camera. Perhaps those of you that are truly in the field, if you scroll to the right a bit, there's the whiteboard. Maybe you're taking a photo of a whiteboard, meeting with clients or something else. You can use that. But to the farthest right, there's what's called business card. If you took a picture of a business card, that actually goes back to your phone contact list because, again, you're in the mobile app. Pretty cool. There's a couple apps that do that, such as Adobe, and that's some of the things that we discuss in other classes. So just some cool, fun tips and tricks. Again, this is very specific to Microsoft Teams, the mobile view. So that's how you can scan in a document using the camera app through the Microsoft Teams application. So otherwise, we just demonstrate some very specific items. The other part that I wanted to share to you that's specific to the mobile app, meaning you can only do it in the mobile app. If I tap on type a message, I'm going to send this to Jasmine. Perhaps I'm too busy. I don't know how to type, or I just can't type because I did my nails, or whatever the situation is. On the far, far right, so instead of the camera, I have a microphone. So maybe I want to voice to her that I'm here. Is anybody in the building just yet? Maybe I arrived early, whatever situation it may be. So I'm going to tap on the microphone. And the key here, notice it said, and I'm going to do this again, it says hold to record. So I'll just tap on it. I have to press and hold until I'm done. So for example, I'm going to say, oh, I'm so sorry. I am on a call. I forget we're in a Teams meeting recording this. But if you were to not be in a meeting and you need to message your colleagues or in a meeting or something, you can press and hold that down and they will all get that audio message instead of a typed message. So pretty cool and fancy. Again, that's a very separate tool and difference between the mobile app versus the desktop app. So otherwise, let me go and hit back here because I'm still in Teams. This is my home view, if you will. That's space that we were looking at on the desktop previously. So since we're looking at the chat here, we saw a lot of fun features there. I'm going to go with the fourth one from the very bottom from the left. So calendar. If I tap on calendar, this is that same calendar view that I was sharing with you again on the desktop just right now in a mobile view. And this right now is in a list form, meaning up and down in chronological order. If you're not happy with that, you can change that view. Remember, we talked about customization a little bit. So at the top right hand corner, next to the word February, there's another icon there, and then there's a camera and a plus key. We're going to select that first icon next to the word February to the right. So it looks like a little card guy. If I tap there, that now changes it from a list to a calendar view. So now I can see by the day for the specific meetings that I have. If you don't like that, I'm going to tap again that same icon and it just changed to a list view, like a tile view. So calendar, list, calendar, and list. Pretty cool, my friends. Okay, since we're in calendars, as we talked about before in the desktop, maybe I need to schedule a meeting. I don't have to be on my desktop. I could do it right from my phone. So how to do that? Top right hand corner where it has a little plus. So that plus sign, because I'm in the calendar, that means I'm creating a new event. So this is my test calendar events. I'm going to label it as that. I can add a participant such as Jasmine. So I'm going to find her again. And she's the only one. So I'm going to tap on done. Similar to the desktop, maybe there's a full channel that I need, so I'm going to tap there. If there is an applicable channel, I would simply select them. I don't need that, so I'm going to hit the back arrow key. And then there's going to be specific times. So let's say I need to meet with her from like 7. I'm going to put this floating window up 7. This is a late meeting. She's going to be very unhappy with me. So we're going to keep it short at 15 minutes. So otherwise, here's our meeting. We're going to meet real quick. It is quite urgent. I need to talk to her. So I'm going to schedule that and tap on done at the top right. And here we go. Notice it says event created successfully. And it just updated. Here's that test event at 7 to 7:15. If I need to look at the calendar view, so I'm tapping on the top right hand corner again. Here it is, the later meeting. It's a lot smaller because it's shorter in time. So otherwise, again, we're in the mobile view creating an event very similar to what we did on the desktop. But again, I don't have to sit at my desktop. I could do it right through my phone. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and click on this call key at the bottom right. This is the same call log that we saw on my desktop. And the only difference is, again, this is the mobile view. So if I need to change that and make a phone call at the top right-hand corner, there's a phone plus sign, and I can make that phone call. Again, we are on a mobile view, so I could just dial away technically, but no, you can do it directly off of Teams. Other than that, what I want to share with you is at the ... at the very bottom where it says more, we're going to tap there. As I'd mentioned, you can customize Teams to however you prefer. So it's not only true for the desktop, but even for your mobile view. So for example, I'm in the reorder section now. My files, cameras, let's say I definitely don't use that. So if I tap on reorder, the word, I have all my navigation items listed here. And all I need to do is tap, drag, and drop in the order of my preference. So for example, I'm going to change this activity all the way to the bottom where calls is. So I'm going to tap on the right hand side, if that's easier for you, drag and drop. Tap, drag, and drop. So I'm going to try that again. This time I'm going to move my chat to the top because I chat a lot. So I'm going to tap chat. Notice it's enabled, and I'm going to drag up to the top, and that's how I know it's now at the top. So if I'm happy with this new reordering, and I could do that with the bottom files and camera, everything that's listed under more. So I'm going to say planner. I'm going to tap, drag, and put it to the top because I use planner pretty frequently. So again, total customization. This is your navigation preview. So for example, any of the changes that I've been doing, if you look at the bottom pane there where it says navigation preview, it is now in the order that I have just customized. And let's say I'm happy with it, you just tap on the word done at the top right hand corner, and there is that new customized view. Last but not least, we talked about as part of customization in the settings, maybe you want to change from light mode to dark mode. That is also true in the mobile view. How to get there? Very similar to the desktop where it was in my profile as in my initials, the circle, that's the same here in the mobile view. So the top left hand corner, would I have a circle of BR? I'm going to tap there. This is again the settings of my account. So from here, I'm just going to go to the settings gear. It's the third one down. And then from here, this is where I get to change my appearance, the notifications, everything we did on the desktop. So in respect to time, I'm not going to do all that, but we're just going to share with you how to change at least from dark mode to light mode. So for example, in the appearance, okay, system default is what I'm on, the light mode, but I'm going to select dark to change that so you can see it. So if I were to back out of that using that back arrow key, now everything that I am doing is in dark mode. It is totally your preference. For reasons of this, I'm just going to go back to my settings gear, top left hand corner, again, how I got there, and I'm going to change the appearance back into, let's say, for example, here's light. It's a little too light, so let's keep it on system default, and I'm going to go back. If you're really unhappy with the colors, there's what's called your pride theme. So if you turn that on, this will change the color scheme as well. So if I were to go back, let's see if it shows here. I don't know if it shows here now I think about it, but there is other ways you can change that. So pride scheme, we're just going to turn that off. Anything out of default, I personally don't recommend changing, but there's a default for a reason, but just know you have access to that. So otherwise, I'm going to close out of here. And just taking a look here, this is the mobile view of Teams, how I got here. This is my HDD iPhone. There's what's called your comp portal, and that's the top row for me, the third icon from the left. If you don't have it already installed, which is incredibly rare, IT does a great job of setting it up. If you ever need to sign in, it's just your HDD iPhone, or I'm sorry, HDD email. But when you tap on there, usually it's going to auto load, so I didn't have to log in at this point. And if you need to search Teams, you could do that. If I could just type, there we go. And there's Microsoft Teams, and you can directly install it, again, available through the comp portal. That is our internal app store. So otherwise, again, that's the Teams view in the mobile view. To switch back to my desktop, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing from my mobile view, and that way you can take a look at how I'm doing this. So let's see here. All right, so I have stopped sharing. We're still recording, but I'm going to share with you from my desktop view where we're at in the grand scheme of this recorded Teams training session. So as of right now, we just finished the mobile app view of Teams. We did through a lot today, so you should be very, very, very proud of yourself. Notice everything just changed for you. You did a basic setup where we got to know Teams and the full navigation of that. How to not just chat, but really create rich conversations. And then we talked about the different opportunities and ways to schedule meetings, not only in the desktop, but in the mobile view as well. We even went so far to do some real-time file sharing, not only in PowerPoint, but Excel. So whether you're in a team or meeting on a one-on-one, again, lots of different ways to collaborate in a hybrid environment. And then again, many ways to customize your phone or desktop in your Teams view. But the beauty of all of this is you're not limited to sticking at the desktop. You can do a lot of it through your mobile application. So with that, folks, you've done a lot through this course. I just simply want to close with, that's all that we have for you. You've done so much, so I really want you to think about what is at least one new thing that you plan to implement going forward that will help you to be maybe collaborate a little bit more with your teammates. And if there's anything you learned, we would love to hear back. So feel free to email me. You can message me. Maybe you really enjoyed this class. The last part to make sure you get credit for this is completing the quiz. So to access that, I recommend taking your iPhone, okay, your HDD iPhone, and if you open your camera app, so like you're going to take a regular photo, if you hover over this QR code as in on the screen, you're going to get a little prompt on your phone, and it's going to say a form to complete. Once you do that, you can fill out the form directly from your phone. It's a great opportunity for ways to give us feedback. Did you like this course? Did you find it helpful? What was not useful? We're really here to support you, so any feedback is incredibly valued. Just to make sure you do get credit, yes, there is a quiz at the end to ensure you get credit for the class. So again, wishing you all the best, and that's what we have for you folks as far as Microsoft Teams Essential Training. Thanks so much for joining me. Again, my name is Bethany. Have a great and lovely day. Take care.